Okay, like I said before, the base plates are threaded. That can pose a little problem on installs. If you're just running the screws through the top, you're creating a set of threads, and then you have an existing set of threads in the base plate. So once those meet, as you're running it in, that can create some havoc. It can strip out the bobbin, it can warp the base plate, it can pose a bunch of problems. And another thing is, if you're just running them in, you can not exactly get them straight. I could build a jig and do this on my bench press and run it basically by hand and have everything come out straight. But I'm able to do it with a hand drill and a tap and get good results. I just use the bottom as a guide to tap the holes through the bobbin itself. So the four centers are tapped. I still have the outer holes in, and that's just to keep everything kind of in line while I tap the centers. And once I put these in, I'll pull the outers out and tap those. And to run those down, if you need a little handy screwdriver, doesn't go real fast but gets the job done, these little skill deals, I think they're about 30 bucks or so. Battery lasts forever. They do a really good job. I wish it was a little faster, but it works well. Okay, with the exception of putting a little piece of tape on here to cover the end leads, this one is ready for covers. Everything feels good assembly wise. As a habit, I always go back and recheck the bottom screws on the slug coil to make sure I did tighten them. And before I put the cover on it, I'll read it. I'll measure it, see where it reads at. It'll be a little high because of the heat generated, but we're just about done. This customer wanted my standard nickel plated covers on his set. These are a fine cover. Material's relatively thin, the nickel plating's relatively thin. These offer a certain layer of transparency as well as the beneficial or likable tones you can get out of a cover, as far as any of the chirp that they get or that certain glassiness that they might have. Any cover will take away a little bit of treble, but it's nothing really that a few turns of a knob here or there can't take care of. I've already removed a little bit of the plating so the solder will adhere to it. And as far as treating the cover, it's pretty simple. You don't really need to put any wax inside or any silicone or anything like that. As long as the humbucker is assembled correctly, there's good tension in the coil, and the cover is installed correct, you shouldn't have any microphonic problems or squealing. The main thing is to keep this from vibrating and essentially turning into a microphone, although it's generating its own noise. So with that said, I have a small piece of paper tape over the slug coils and a piece of 1/2-inch tape on the inside of the cover, which is the same tape I use around the edge to protect the lead wires, and that makes this cover ready for installation. With the exception of usually bending this down a little bit here so they don't bow out too bad. So for the cover, basically you just want to slide it over, and if I did my job right, it should line up well with the screw poles or the pole pieces. I don't know if you heard that snap, but everything was nice. None of the screws are off real bad. And when I was talking before about the bobbin spreading out a little bit, that can cause the cover to lay a little crooked when it seats down. That's not too much of a problem either. And it has a piece of protectant over it for, so you don't scratch it up, but I like to use a little piece of wood so I don't put a divot in it or anything like that with the clamp. Then I'll bring in normal spring clamp. Clamp it down so I can solder it. Make sure everything's still straight. I want to get a wood shop type clamp, mount it to a board that you can push down on, so I can do a couple of them at a time. So one at a time is kind of frustrating, but it's always something. It always takes time. I switch over to a 100-watt gun to solder the cover so I can get in and out real quick. It doesn't take a lot of solder to hold them on, really. I don't put a lot on in case a customer wants to take the covers off at a later date or anything like that. Just let that harden for a second. Flip the clamp. Now we have one assembled humbucker. The only thing left now is clean it up, make sure everything's good, put a little decal on it, get them packaged up. Okay, here's the set, completely finished, ready for packaging. Everything measured fine after cool down and within spec, so they're ready to go out to the customer. This has been a build of the Plain Jane series humbucker, or vintage design, lowest output. A2 magnets, 7K neck, 8.4K bridge. It's doing very well amongst some of our vintage customers, always reviews well. Has done pretty decent in a shootout against a lot of the other wines out there, and we're pretty happy with that. If you have any questions or want to place an order, feel free to contact us. I think the next video I do on these will be more about the wine philosophy and design. Behind that, we'll try to get a little bit more tech info in there. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.